Hey everyone, and welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. My name is Annabelle, and I am your Wednesday Mini Scroll host and also the deputy editor of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Tech Scroll for another week. I hope you guys are having a good week so far. My For You page is still flooded with all the Coachella content, which is honestly my guilty pleasure because I fear going to Coachella is definitely on my bucket list. So I'm hoping that will continue just for a little bit longer. Other than that, I don't have too much to say at the top of this week's episode, except for I feel like you guys were so nice in the comments last week. So thank you. I really appreciated that. But yes, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Infinite Scroll. We are getting so close to 10K subscribers on YouTube, and we are excited about it. Anyway, let's get into the content for this week. Okay, as promised from last week, I said that I would get into the Meta antitrust trial a little bit. If this isn't something that you're interested in, please feel free to skip ahead. There are timestamps in every description. But yes, I'm just going to give you guys a very high-level run-through of everything going on and what it means. We definitely won't have time to get through everything, but hopefully we will get the basics covered. So at a fundamental level, I just wanted to touch on what antitrust law actually is. So it is a set of federal laws in the United States, because that is obviously the context we are talking about, that try to promote economic competition and limit monopoly. Obviously, economic competition is good because it can drive down prices, encourage innovation, and even encourage efficiency. In the past few years, we have seen tech giants like Meta, Google, and even Apple come under fire for allegedly illegally monopolizing various aspects of the industry and digital space, ranging from ad tech to social media platforms. If we're looking back to Trump's first presidential term, for example, he repeatedly expressed concern about the dominance of big tech, which is a little bit ironic given that he is very buddy-buddy with Elon Musk these days. But part of this seemingly came from his belief that, quote, conservatives have been treated very unfairly by companies like Google and other big tech companies. Whether you agree with that sentiment or not, it's clear that a few big tech companies definitely do dominate the market. Having said that, the Trump administration did launch a number of antitrust cases that ended up continuing over to Biden. The major ones were against Google for monopolizing online search functions as well as digital advertising technology. Another one was against Apple for allegedly monopolizing smartphones. Amazon also faced one for monopolizing online retail. And of course, we have Meta, which is facing allegations that it monopolized personal social media networks. And what we're talking about here is happening at the federal level, but there is also similar things happening for some companies in the United States at a state level. So with that context, Meta has been making headlines because the long-awaited antitrust trial between Meta and the US Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, kicked off on April 14th. This is going to be going on for like another 2 months, with the judge hearing arguments whether Meta monopolized the markets after buying Instagram and WhatsApp. So we are very much in the early days. But if the FTC succeeds in presenting its case, Meta might be forced to spin off Instagram and WhatsApp, which would obviously be massive for the company. As Lauren Feiner and Alex Heath report for The Verge, quote, Instagram is the company's most culturally relevant service by far, with millions of active creators. WhatsApp is estimated to be the most used messaging app in the world. Both apps are critical surfaces for Meta to distribute its AI assistant, which Zuckerberg sees as the next major tech battle. I just wanted to include that quote because I think it shows that beyond the cultural relevance of Instagram, it shows that Instagram and WhatsApp hold significance for the company moving forward. So obviously, I'm not going to be covering everything that has come out from the trial so far, but I will try to give you the highlights. If you want the play-by-play, I've already mentioned it, but The Verge is doing some really accessible and comprehensive reporting on the trial, so definitely check that out. It will be linked in in the description. I also listened to the Vergecast podcast this morning, which also had some really interesting insights about the trial because one of the hosts for that episode has been in the courtroom. Anyway, what has been making probably the most headlines is that Mark Zuckerberg has spent hours on the stand, and he was essentially questioned about Facebook's early days and his intention to purchase WhatsApp and Instagram, which from many journalists seemed kind of boring, to be honest, because it seemed like it was just a lot of reviewing of previous company emails. But some of the most interesting points that have come out of all of this is that when it came to Instagram, Zuckerberg downplayed then Facebook wanting to buy Instagram as a potential competitor. Because one of the main questions around the trial so far has been the intentions of Zuckerberg as to why he wanted to purchase Instagram, whether it was a way to neutralize a competitor, because that kind of feeds into our idea of a monopoly. And when it came to the issue of WhatsApp, Zuck did admit that, quote, "We worried about them broadly competing with us ahead of the purchase of the app." But according to reports on his testimony, Zuck kind of was shading the WhatsApp founders a little bit, kind of insinuating that they weren't super ambitious. So while he may have been worried about them as competition, I don't think he actually thought they could go very far. Off the back of this, there has also been a lot of conversation around whether Instagram and WhatsApp would have been as successful as they are if Meta didn't buy the platform, and this will definitely be something that the judge has to grapple with. Another interesting thing that has come out of the trial is that it seemed like Zuckerberg kind of saw this coming, where it was revealed that he had grappled with the idea of spinning off Instagram as a separate company as early as 2018, which was also a year or so before the FTC initially opened its antitrust investigations. Obviously, through all of this, Zuckerberg has really doubled down on the fact that he doesn't see Meta as a monopoly, which is obviously what he is trying to show to the court. But he pointed to Meta's growth, saying that it really slowed due to the rise of TikTok and YouTube, where he said, quote, "People spend more time on YouTube than Facebook and Instagram combined, certainly more than either one independently." So this kind of points to another big discussion that is coming out of the courtroom, and that is exactly who would be Meta's competitors. Meta is kind of positioning themselves more in competition with the likes of TikTok and other social media platforms, whereas the FTC is claiming that Meta has a monopoly in, quote, personal social networking, which revolves around connections between friends and family. So some of the competitors there would be Snapchat. And also they've mentioned this smaller app called MeWe, which I genuinely have never heard of. But this has also been a really interesting point of discussion as far as market definition goes. Because to me, I don't know, I feel like Meta is competing with the likes of TikTok more than Snapchat. But I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of that. Okay, so I feel like those are kind of the main discussion points that are floating around in the media at the moment about the trial. But there was another interesting point that was slightly cooked that came up during Zuckerberg's testimony. And that was that, according to internal emails from 2022, Zuckerberg floated the idea of potentially, quote, wiping everyone's graphs and having them start again to essentially make friending people on Facebook more relevant. And I feel like that is actually crazy because I don't know if all my friends on Facebook were gone, if I would actually go back and add people again, because half the people I have on Facebook I probably haven't even met and just know from around. I feel like it's good that that didn't actually end up happening. So there were definitely no real kind of big bombshells while Zuck was on the stand, but there were some things that I found interesting. And one was that the Cambridge Analytica scandal didn't actually impact Meta's engagement metrics, and also that Meta reportedly offered $1 billion to settle this lawsuit. And obviously that has been unsuccessful. But this is still a breaking story, so I'm sure there will be more information to come. But those are the highlights, and hopefully that is enough context to help you understand what is going on when you see certain headlines. Also, in a similar vein, I have another kind of offshoot story. Funnily enough, in this same week that this has all been going on, Google lost a landmark antitrust case. As I mentioned earlier, Google is facing a number of antitrust cases, but this one was about monopolizing the advertising technology industry. This case essentially claims that Google orchestrated a campaign to control online advertising, and allegations suggest that the company spent billions acquiring tools that publishers and advertisers depend on in the digital ad market. I am no expert in the ad industry, so I don't really want to get into the nitty-gritty of how digital ads work, but this is not the first time that Google has faced a legal blow when it comes to antitrust cases. Last year, a judge handed down a decision that ruled that Google had been exploiting its dominance to stifle any competition around online search. And if it goes that way, Google may have to spin off Chrome. And I did actually see a headline before I sat down to record that OpenAI would buy Google's Chrome browser, according to Bloomberg. Nevertheless, as far as the advertising case goes, Google said that it will appeal the decision. At the end of the day, I just think the context of all of this is so interesting, especially because of the way that we've seen big tech cozy up to Trump through his campaign and since his inauguration. I'm sure we all remember the picture of all the tech bros sitting front row at the inauguration. With hindsight, it does kind of seem like this was an attempt to soften the administration's stance when it came to this kind of thing. And maybe they thought that friendship and flattery towards Trump would do that, but I don't think it's working too well for them. So I will keep you updated, I guess, with how this all goes if anything interesting breaks, but that is the lowdown. Okay, my next story that I wanted to talk about today is about a new report that was published by YouTube that is all about virtual creators. The report, which was published on April 17th, spoke about the rise of virtual creators, characterizing this type of influencer as, quote, a new frontier. Virtual creators, or VTubers, as they are called in the report, which is honestly a term I've never heard, so do with that what you will, are exactly what you would expect though. They are creators that may be AI generated or animated. The report sampled 300 virtual creators and found a collective, quote, 15 billion views across videos, live streams, and shorts, with 1 billion of those views coming from the US alone. So this clearly shows that this type of influencer is significant in the space. It also does seem to have some kind of longevity, given that over the past 3 years, videos related to virtual creators have averaged 50 billion views annually. The report does make a distinction between different types of virtual influencers, separating them into 4 categories. The first was a VTuber. I honestly hate that name, but it's apparently a distinct type of on-screen persona, a virtual character living in the real world. Then they have a gaming virtual creator, which is a creator who utilizes the character creation in video games to develop virtual personas. The third one is a virtual artist, which is a creator with a distinguished focus on music creation and performance. And then lastly, a virtual human, which is a creator who represents themselves more, quote, realistically than their fantastical video game or anime-derived counterparts. So that was taken directly from the report, but I definitely think it shows the versatility of these kind of creators, but as the report notes, this type of creator feels the most native to gaming content, which is something I agree with. As the report reads, quote, gameplay streaming is both mechanically ideal and aesthetically complementary to virtual creators, and it is familiar to YouTube viewers. So the reason I wanted to include this report was I am just very curious about the longevity of these types of content creators, because obviously they've already been around for a while, and I do think this creator will become more and more common with the rise of AI and it becomes easier to create this kind of content. Also, with short-form content remaining popular, the barrier to entry is definitely lower, where people can try their hand at virtual influencers through short-form and kind of more relaxed trends. But on the flip side, I think people have been interested in virtual influencers up until this point, partly because of the intrigue around them. And what I mean by that is I think many people would have been introduced to this kind of content and engaged with it because of their curiosity and confusion. For example, from memory, my first time being introduced to the concept of a virtual influencer was actually through Little Michaela, after she really blew up when Shane Dawson did a conspiracy theory on her probably around 2017 or 2018 at this point. So as these virtual creators become increasingly common, I am intrigued about whether viewers will remain as interested. Like, I could kind of see it going either way. Either it just becomes the norm with the rise of AI and essentially these types of creators replace animated cartoons on streaming platforms and TV, for example. Or people could just simply start searching for human-to-human connection and want to consume content by real people in an internet that is overrun by AI. I am curious, though, to hear what you think about virtual influencers. If you watch them, whether you like them, whether you think they have longevity. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. And my last story for today is actually another legal one. We are now a law podcast. I'm kidding, obviously. But the creator of the Apple Dance is suing Roblox. Okay, so the one and only Kelly Heyer is suing Roblox for using her viral choreography to the Apple Dance without their permission. So I'm sure we are all familiar with the Apple Dance at this point, but how it ties into Roblox is that last year when Brat Summer was in full swing, RIP, I miss her already, the company ended up partnering with Charlie XCX, and it was in one of the platform's most popular games, being Dress to Impress. I fear I have spoken about Dress to Impress before, in passing maybe, but it was a game that blew up last year where you would play against other users and have like 5 minutes to dress to a certain theme. Then all the players in the round would rate one another out of 5 stars, and the person with the highest amount of stars won. Me and my friends did have a little Dress to Impress phase, and honestly, we need to bring it back. It was so fun. But like, I definitely did get bullied in the chat when people were rating me. But anyway, so Dress to Impress had a Brat update where there was new clothing, new hair items, new makeup items that were introduced that were all Brat themed. There was also new Brat-inspired poses that were introduced for players, and one of them was the choreography to the Apple Dance. Aside from Dress to Impress, Roblox was also offering the Apple Dance as an emote for Roblox avatars. Now, the Apple Dance is no longer available for sale, but I believe it would have had to be purchased with Robux, which is real money. Kelly reportedly filed the lawsuit on April 11th, claiming that they were in negotiations with Roblox to license the dance, but Roblox released the update before there was a conclusion to these negotiations. As for the timeline, Nicole Carpenter for Polygon wrote it down, writing, quote, Roblox added the dance emote in mid-August, coinciding with a Dress to Impress update that added everything Brat into the game on August 17th. Heyer first posted the Apple Dance on June 15th, 2024, and submitted a copyright application for it. That was after Roblox contacted her to license the dance, which came after Charlie XCX's label contacted Roblox to get the artist in Dress to Impress. Heyer said she was willing to license the dance on August 12th per the lawsuit, but the dance was released before negotiations were finalized. According to the complaint, Roblox did make quite a bit of money off the Apple Dance emote. As the complaint reads, quote, Roblox sold in excess of 60,000 units of the Apple Dance emote for an estimated $120,000 in sales from Miss Heyer's copyrighted work. As the Apple Dance emote comprises solely of the Apple Dance choreography, completely separate and distinct from the Charli XCX song, the sole artist for purposes of the emote is Miss Heyer. In the Polygon article, the journalist also discussed how Kelly's Apple Dance had been licensed correctly to Fortnite and sold as an emote, and had also been licensed to Netflix for its usage as well. But we have literally been having the discussion around crediting dances on TikTok for years at this point, and I know this feels a little bit different, but ever since the Renegade dance went so viral, I feel like we've been discussing how choreographers, many of whom are people of color, never get the credit they are owed. So I simply do not know how this could have happened from a major company. But at the end of the day, I think it brings to light a really interesting discussion around ownership and virality, and how when things go so viral and trends are reinvented and recreated by people, we all kind of develop our own sense of ownership over a dance or whatever, when that really shouldn't be the case. I'm not saying that in relation to Roblox specifically, but I just think it's when it comes to user-generated content more generally. I am interested to see, though, where this case goes. I feel like Kelly wouldn't have filed a complaint if she didn't think she could get something out of it, obviously. So I'm hoping that it is a success for her. Okay, well, I guess that is everything from me today. Lauren will be jumping back on the pod tomorrow. I actually will not be speaking to you next week. Lauren spoke a little bit about that on yesterday's episode, but there will be content going up. So don't worry, you will still be getting your daily dose of mini scroll. But I will see you soon, and thanks for listening. Bye.